You have top journals only from the US or the UK or or the Europe. You don't have a top Indian based journal, because you need to fund for that. You need to put funding, you need to create an ecosystem, you need to have an editor who's reaching out to top professors, you need to have publication charges.
I know you for he's the guy who networks always. I've seen him networking with, I don't know, his WhatsApp is like, it has, I think, 10,000 contacts. Like, no one knows. So, and the good part I've seen about you is that you not just like network once, but you make it a point to keep in touch, and once in a while keep pinging, kind of a thing. So that gelled with your research acumen.
Yeah.
It has definitely helped you, and you definitely made the right choice to do PhD. Because when I look at my journey, right, and I there was a point when I was doing my dissertation in MBA, and for a point I thought, hey, research would be cool, right? Then I thought, like, when I look back, no, I thought that, had I given that a serious thought, that would have been like the disaster of the century type. So thank God I didn't. So yeah, eventually we find out what we want to do. And you mentioned about you attending so many conferences, etc., and how that helped you get your motivation and things like that. I wanted to ask a broader question, actually. uh, See, it's all about, like, it's basically about India, and how is research in India when compared to research abroad. And obviously we know that, like, it's like the pinnacle of learning, and PhD people are the ones who pave the way for future people to come in and work and build on that. So how actually wait, let me frame my question a little better. Yeah, how much emphasis does India give to its research when compared to other countries? And yeah, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, it's a very important question. We need to know, because now I think the youth, unlike 15 years back, is not detached with the country's development and politics. I think the current youth is very involved and want to know the truth. So let me answer you something like this. My personal thoughts is that I think the most difficult part in research is investing on something which is intangible. So again, the same problem of gratification and instant result is what the problem is. So let me give an interesting aside. I remember, it'll be a tangential thought, but it's even applies to research. I remember there was a person called Brigadier Ashish. So he had come to our university and he had given a talk. So he was in the line of control, fighting the war during the Kargil. And then after that, he became senior. Then he went off to staff college, where he was in an administrative role. Right. So he said how his thought process changed. So when he was actually fighting the war, so he used to keep cribbing that the government is not spending money on ammunition or technology for defense, right? So हमारे कपड़े ठीक नहीं थे, we didn't have good guns and good ammunition, and the country is spending somewhere else, like that his thought was. But when he came to administrative role, these senior like civil servants and soldiers are given roles to take up some developmental projects of the country. Like, he had got this opportunity to take care of malnutrition in a particular district. Okay. So when he got into the problem, he said, good that India is not spending too much money on defense, man, because malnutrition is the fundamental problem in the country, right? Or poverty is a fundamental problem in the country. So why I take this story is that I think, for a country like India, we have still that Maslow's hierarchy issue is there, right? The lower level problems. So
Needs.
needs. So without solving that, you solve a self-actualization need, right? It's going to create a mess, or not only in the solution but also as a perceiving. You can't perceive someone solving a bigger problem when you don't solve a fundamental problem. It's like, can you teach a hungry stomach? No. No, right? So those are some issues I think the country is facing. But I will not say that we are not spending on research, but I think we are spending lot on immediate actionable research or tangible research. So let me take an example.
Mm.
Social science. Okay, social science itself is not a very tangible research, right? So what I did research, will you use it tomorrow? No, you will not use it tomorrow. But a research on vaccine, you will use it tomorrow, right? Or for
Might use
example,
your research, right?
huh? Tell me.
We might use your research
But not
tomorrow, right?
today, right? Not tomorrow. So mine is a concept. I am developing a theory, right?
Hmm.
You will not, you can't see it, you can't feel it. It's not a tangible thing.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
I
I
think
may,
like this becomes more pressing when it comes to like humanities than
yeah,
sciences.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so for example, suppose, see, I'm trying to do research on poverty elevation, suppose.
Hmm.
So lot of funding is required. You need to go door to door villages and collect data, collect saving behavior of these people, and finally to make a model to understand that and create some tangible benefit. If you talk in a policy intervention, it's going to take huge amount of time. Correct, huge amount of time. So that is why we have lot of focus on engineering research or scientific research. Even in scientific research, let us take an example. See, you remember that there's a big news on this gravitational waves, right? So Albert Einstein, 100 years, almost close to 100 years back, theoretically he was proving that there are gravitational waves. No one had the bandwidth or the infrastructure to measure gravitational waves, right? But 40 years, a big instrument was just working simply, right, to just observe gravitational waves, and one fine day they found. But no, for 40 years it was running, man. Where the money, means, like, imagine the amount of money or or the interest you should have to run a system like that. So these are like fundamental research. But now the question is, will the research affect me? It may not affect me now. It will affect 100 years later. I remember I used to talk to this PhD scholars of mathematics department. Okay. So they say that, for example, you're using now automatic washing machine or automatic air conditioner. They all run on fuzzy logic. 20 years back, research was done on fuzzy logic. Okay. That time no one knew what is the application of it, but 20 years it took time for a mathematical concept to come into a product level. But on the contrary, few weeks back I met a person who's working in Stanford. He was part of the research team of QR code, now which we use extensively. He had done mathematical equation formation for QR code. So how a QR code can be automatically generated, which gets translated into an equation, right? Something is happening, right, between. But he just worked on 3 years back on that project. So now that's an actual product right now, which even a petrol bunk is having, which is so relatable, so tangible, and so down to, like, in the grassroots. But there are some fundamental research which cannot be seen. So that is where we have issues. For example, see the funding opportunities what a science research gets compared to a management research or a humanities research get. Very less funding, very less scholarships. But I won't blame it, because it's the nature of the study itself like that. So the country has bigger problems to work on. So tomorrow, directly addressing a intangible research issue and putting huge amount of dollars into that might look not reasonable. It might actually question the government's initiative or government's focus. So in that way, but yes, I think in numbers we can say research wise we are in the top 15. We are nowhere in top 5. We are in the top 15. But For example, research itself gets measured in different ways. For example,
Hmm.
it can be measured in a tangible output, right? A product or a patent or a technology, or it can be measured through publications, right? Papers. So
So are you
again,
guys journalists? Like you'll be publishing papers and all, no?
yeah, we are exactly journalists because we need to communicate to the world what are we doing, right? So we are journalists, but we are not reporting. So I remember very good point you have raised. My professor used to tell that you're not a reporter. So why I'm telling you is that suppose I'm observing a phenomena, I should not report the phenomena. That is not research. Research is understanding the phenomena and then telling implications of it or its impact, right? It's a step more. So I am not telling so and so person is doing this. That anyone can do. Any you if you also see it, you can tell that. If you also take the data, you can tell that. Reporting is not research. That's a very fundamental thing which we are taught in the initial days. Like reporting is not research. But your end research is reported, right? It has to be communicated to the world. You can't say that I'm doing it for myself. No, you need to communicate to the world. So coming, as you said, coming to publications, there are top level journals in the country, but again there are no top level journals from our country. You have top journals only from the US or the UK or the Europe. You don't have a top Indian based journal, because you need to fund for that. You need to put funding, you need to create an ecosystem, you need to have an editor who's reaching out to top professors, you need to have publication charges and all that. We have in India, it's very sad state to tell that we don't have top level publishers in academia from India. Even so, what is happening? So even Indian professors are fighting to publish in abroad or international journals, but no one is fighting for other way. We are not they're not They don't have any competition to publish in Indian journals, Indian publications. So that is also one issue. But what is happening is, in case of publication, as I told you, which is also one of the metric to measure research, a lot of shallow research is happening in publication. So publication another day is a piece of paper, right? So it's not a
Yeah.
product. It's not a tangible thing which you can see. So when it comes to paper, you just take two three papers, you just combine that work and then just publish it, or you're paying some huge subscription fee to that and then get published. So those are little shallow research. So end of the day, you have a paper, but it's not going to contribute in long term. So in that way, I think yes, a lot of focus is coming to research, because if you talk about international rankings of universities, which keeps getting published, so their research is a very big focus. So now they're understanding that if institutes don't do research, you won't get ranked. So 20 years back, we were worrying about teach. Professors used to come and teach, take class, make live demonstrations, activity based learning, and all that. But now, a lot of focus is going on research. But now, what is the problem? The problem is now professors have gone into that age group where they're not able to do active research. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
management field. Take for example, now a lot of research is happening. Even my research was based on Twitter and Google Trends, right? Social media sentiments, because that's the upcoming thing. That's where people are going to. Social media is playing a huge role in financial markets and also politics and all that. So you can't expect a very senior professor to actually learn coding and do some web scraping and data mining, content analysis and all that. But he may have some idea, right? So what is happening is that now a lot of institutions are encouraging young research scholars to join as a research faculty. So they're telling you don't teach anything. We don't want you to teach. You do only research and publish and make good papers for us so that our rankings can go up. And we will not disturb the senior professors who have been teaching. We can't force them to do research right now because they have lost that gap to stay ahead of times, right?
Besides, what is a good paper, right? They're saying that come join us, like create good papers. Who decides at the end of the day what is good, what is not good?
That's a very good question. So there is one thing called indexing, right? So, for example, there are two very famous index. So, one is Web of Science Index and one is Scopus Index. So, every journal is not part of this index. So, it call it as a list, right? So, the journal should be part of this list. So, Web of Science is superior, and next comes Scopus. So, I can say that my one paper in Journal of Behavioral Finance is a Web of Science indexed and also Scopus indexed. So that's a top journal you can ask for. So yeah,
Congrats.
literally, I didn't take an example. It is it's the truth.
Give treat.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
What is
surely.
thanks? Give treat.
Yeah,
This
sure,
is
sure,
saying
sure.
thanks.
I'll
Yeah,
give.
give him the journal to read. He'll not understand one thing also.
So adding to that, so these indexing are measures to say that you are published in a good journal. That is one thing. We have some good publishers. For example, Wiley and Sons is a very good publisher. Elsevier, Emerald, Sage. So these are good publishers where they publish journals. So where you can Taylor and Francis is one again good publisher. In management, so what happens is in science you have this important score called impact factor. Okay, so which is highly spoken because we can't avoid to we can't avoid that measure in this podcast. Impact factor has to be discussed. So impact factor is the measure to tell simple how many people have used your work, right? So if I make a
Hmm.
paper, how many people have used your work? So take it a number, 300, 400, whatever it is. So now the impact factor is not for a paper, is it for a journal? So imagine a journal has 100 papers or 200 papers. Means, are they producing good papers? So when I can tell that they're producing good papers, when others are referring that work, no, others are building on that work. So if I say impact factor of 20 or 25, oh, good number of people. That's a metric. It's a formula, but just take it that higher the impact factor, more the people are using that work. Okay. But now there is a trick in this. Problem is, end of the day, impact factor is a number, right? It doesn't have a human face to it. So what is happening is something like management is, I can say that if 100 people are doing research in science, there can be as less as 1% doing research in management. That's it. That's the ballpark figure.
Ratio.
That's the ratio. As an average number, I can say that. So now, because of this, impact factor will be very low for management journals, no? Because you don't have too many people doing research only. So there may be only 5 people or 4 people referring to my work, but that itself is great compared to the numbers, absolute numbers. So what they did, they said that okay, fine, we'll not follow impact factor for management. We'll follow a classification called ABDC. So
What is ABDC?
ABDC is Australian Business Dean Council, ABDC. So it's a council formed. It was formed in Australia, but it's an international council from where they constitute professors from different universities and colleges, and they make a list of journals, and they call it A star, A, B, C. So these are alphabet classification. Apart from this, others are unlisted. This is only for management, right? So A star, I can say there are around 200 to 300 A stars paper in management across. So when I say management, it includes finance, HR, strategy, marketing, production, everything. All subdomains, everything. Then you have A journals, B, C, and unlisted journals. So just to give you idea that in good institutions, B schools, if you get a or a star paper, you are rewarded with a cash award also. It's a good honor for the institution to have a star A in A star papers. Unfortunately, we don't have indigenous research happening in Indian institutions and getting into A star papers. So there is some pedigree required to get into A star paper. So that's a blatant truth which I can say. So being from a tier 2 university, I need to do extensive amount of work and take the knowledge much ahead to even try and submit to A star paper. So, but what happens is that professors collaborate with foreign institution professors and then try to publish in A star papers. Yeah. So that would be the classification or rating a journal. So tomorrow, when you say that I have a A paper, I have two A's and three B's. So people talk like that. And when you go to conference, like how many papers you have? I have an A, I have A star, I have two A's and one B, like that. A star, I don't think so. Any research scholar in our country will have. Abroad is possible. Like some amazing research people do.
Does it
Very
include like all the research done across, like
management.
whatever? Yeah.
Management, yes, but it will not include it. Every journal is evaluated, but all
Hmm.
will not be list, all will not be rated. They call it rated. So there are some journals which are unrated, they don't come into the ABDC category. So
Okay.
they will be like unlisted.
But
A
people,
star, ABC, yeah, C, there's no even, not even D actually.
but people be bragging, right? They will be like, hey, how many stars? Hey, triple A, like that and all. Like,
For
Yeah.
them to understand that AAA, A star, and all, they have to watch the podcast till here.
no, but in the conference, no, in the conference they'll be like, hey, what's up, bro? Hey, what's up? 4A's, like that and all. They'll be like.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
this only. It's discussion is like
That's
this
how I'm
only.
saying. So many people will be looking at you and judging you, Abhinan, and like face palm. Anyway,
For me, they'll just be like, hey, what's up, A? And they'll be like, what's A? My name is Abhi, like that.
God. So, Gadi, you spoke about like publishing papers, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know like what is the toil that goes into like publishing a paper, and uh, like you spoke about obviously like good paper and bad paper, or whatever the unlisted or ABC, and then there's no D, right?
No
So
D, unlisted. Yeah.
Direct Z. The direct Z. You're out of alphabetical order only.
yeah. So what exactly does first of all publishing paper mean,
Okay.
and what goes on into it, and yeah, like why publish a paper at all?
Right. Uh, why publish a paper is very important because I need to communicate to the world. So things done in a closed room doesn't make any sense. I can do a painting for my personal satisfaction, but you are not a true researcher if you're not contributing it to the outside society, and if the society is not able to accept your work. And when you do research, it's not the ultimate truth, right? It's your observation, it's your assumptions. They also call it as propositions, right? With some methodology, you're trying to prove or disprove. So always there will be criticism or counter theories. That will only come when you publish it, right? So it's not a modern art that it is subjective, right? So you need to get challenged, and that happens when you
Hmm.
send it to a publication. That is the first thing. And end of the day, you want to be noticed, right? You want to be noticed. You want people. You want to excel. And if you don't publish, who knows you? Who are you? Right? That's the fundamental reason for why publication. The process is almost the same. What happens in the process is, now once you find an observation, once you find an interesting result, I need to. So you will have a lot of piece of information and pieces of tasks done. You need to consolidate everything from a start to end. So I remember when I had gone to AMJ workshop in IM Bangalore. So I had presented my work. So I showed my methodology, I showed my results. Then the professor there asked, "Where is your story?" I was like, "Story? What story? This is research, right? Methodology, conclusion, result." Means I was lost in the statistics of it. I was lost in the numbers of it. Then she asked, "No, tell a story." It left me puzzled in the in the I was on the dais. Okay. Then she told, "Okay, we'll take it offline. You continue." Then after that, we had a chat after the lunch. She was explaining me that you are a researcher telling a story to the world. So, and that story should be so convincing that people should read it. Correct. And then in that, you weave in the methodology, the statistical rigor, and the technicalities. Don't just go and dump the statistics on the head of a person. No, tell a story. What is happening? So then she told, read all top. So these are like, why I'm telling you is that these tips, I have not got it from Indian researchers and professors. Like that is why you see that these people are publishing in A-star papers, right, or A-star journals. So here she was actually telling me to focus on the story. So that is what happens in a paper. I need to tell a story. So you have an introduction. It can be like beautiful. I have read some beautiful papers where it will start like a novel. Like the introduction will be so engaging and make you think that, oh yeah, no, why, what will be the result, like that. And then they will show the methodology. They have a conclusion. Before conclusion, they'll have something called discussion, where they will thrash it out. you know so for you to tell sun is rising in the east, we need to also bring evidence why it is not rising in the west, right? So all that discussions, they call it argument, counter arguments, counter theory, and everything, they'll build it, and they'll conclude the paper. And so now, getting into the technicalities, you have some page limit for different journals, so you can't just write a big Mahabharata in that. So they will tell 10,000 words or 15 pages, like that. Limitations will be there. That you can go to a journal website and then look into the guidelines, and they will have something called scope of a journal. So every paper will not be accepted by journal. So some journals will tell, we will accept only these type of works. So there are journals who do only research, who accept only work on developing countries. Right? So I can't do research on US market and tell publish it. He'll tell, boss, see the title or see the scope of the journal. We publish only research on BRICS, right? So British, Brazil and India,
Yeah.
yeah, right, China and all that. So they say that. So these are some basic requirements when you choose. So once you finish the paper, so the finishing the writing the paper is not a sequential thing. You don't write a paper then select a journal. It's an iterative process. So you need to select the journal while writing the paper also. So you write totally tangential, then you don't find a journal which is accepting this style, right? Right. So you select a journal, then looking for journals, then meanwhile you're writing the paper, then you're adapting. So it's a very, very fluid process. Then you submit the paper. So what happens is
Hmm.
that there is something called desk rejection. So that's a very painful thing. So what happens is that so every journal will have an editor. So the editor is the father of the entire journal, who goes through different manuscripts which come and decide whether this piece of information or this piece of knowledge can be in my journal or not. So if it is totally unrelated, or if it is written pathetically, especially, that is a very big problem in India. So I can say that uh, I don't have any inhibition in telling that I am a very good researcher, but I'm not a good writer. You need to write well, very well. You need to write the top class English for academic writing. You cannot afford to do grammatical mistakes, and especially complex sentences, passive voice, all are totally discouraged. So why I'm telling you is that I want to mention this. You feel so much handicapped in English writing because we were never edited on spot. I wrote my English exam. At the end of the day, I got 70 marks or I got O grade. That's all I know. I was never reviewed line by line. I was never corrected then and there. I just kept writing, and especially how the exam writing goes on. Last 3 hours, it just shit comes out of our hands, right? We don't even know what we have written, and then end of the day, we are getting only marks. I got 5 scale, 5 out of 5. I'm so happy, but I would have made millions of mistakes in my paper. Right? So that was a very big challenge for me. Very big challenge. Very big challenge. I can tell you that my first paper, which got accepted in Journal of Behavioral Finance, which is a A category journal, Taylor and Francis, got 3 times resubmitted only for English. Only for English. The reviewer were so blatant, telling that it's a beautiful work, it's an interesting question and a very relevant question, but the author needs to spend time on language. Very clear there. They know that if it's from India, it will they wouldn't have spent time on English. They know it, and it is the
Make
truth.
it right IELTS, man. Come on. Enroll
And
right now. Right now. Right now, she will sponsor IELTS training for you.
no, what
But
no,
but what happens,
I'll also
Daddy?
like to add. So I'll also like to add, even when it comes to IELTS, I still think it is one section of English,
Hmm.
right? It's one section of English. So what I was having problem is that, see, I think the biggest problem is translation of thoughts to words,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I have
Correct.
beautiful thoughts. I have amazing thoughts, and till now I have been speaking only wrong English with my classmates, and no one was correcting me. Few
I
friends,
was
except
correcting you.
yeah, few friends like Abhinav, who will not hesitate to correct every step. But when it comes to writing, academic writing is very different. It cannot be it cannot be. So there's a professor who's to come to my college. So Peter Pruzan. So he was from Denmark, Copenhagen University. So he used to write sloppy writing, sloppy writing. So they used to use that word. When you don't spend time, when you don't review your work, and when especially when you are, rambling, rambling thoughts are coming into words, he calls it sloppy writing. So writing is very important. Why I'm telling you is that the feedback from my first journal was so important for me and hit me so hard that I spent more than, if I'm writing a paper for 40 days, I have spent 3 months reviewing the paper, only language. That helped me so much because later on, my second paper, I had sent to Journal of Communication Management. So that's a communication, English communication based journal where we were doing textual analysis of for corporate tweets. I remember when I wrote an inquiry mail, the editor told that we expect high quality of English for it to pass the desk rejection. So it went for review. I was so happy that my English, after years of polishing it and reviewing it, giving it time. So again, Abhinandan, stressing the point that the problem of gratification. You have finished your paper. You don't want to spend too much on writing. You want to just send it off to the publisher
Yeah.
and want to see what's happening. But that's the bad thing. So people have recommended me that sit on a paper for a year. It's okay, but don't make a mistake in sending a proper before doing a proper copy editing or proper like proofreading of the paper. That is very important. I
But
had
an
sent it.
immediate thought, no, that comes is what happens to people like who are French or say German? Like they've been brought up like that, right? So they are not.
Simple, bro, very simple. What will happen is, which we also thought we will use it, there are professional language editing services. They'll charge you 30,000 to make a paper English wise. So what happens is, I am a senior professor. I have my research table. I have my results tables. I have my equations. I don't have time to write. So what I'll do, I will call a language editing service. I'll give the journal name. They are having a team which will go through all the papers, see the language style which is getting accepted in the journal. It's a very scientific process they do. And then they'll take my tables, they'll take my results, make a paper and give it to you. So I remember the editor was he was so kind that he, when the second time also my paper went through a technical review, then it finished a technical review, then it came for language review. I gave it back with language edits. When the second time again they told go for language, the editor was so kind, telling that why don't you go for language servicing services. He told me that. He told, boss, don't send again with mistakes and disappoint and lose this chance. Because he was
Hmm.
quite evident that you have come long way being a research scholar trying to get published in this paper. It's a big thing, don't lose this. But then we did our own homework. What me and my professor did was, we spoke to a person, Ashish Sood. He's from Washington University. So what he did was, he's from the abroad, and he was brought up there. He had this US English good command. So he went through my paper, and then he said, whether should I go for language service editing or not. So that you can ask, right? I would advise that get it checked. If you're sending to an international journal, get it checked from a native speaker, someone who's in abroad, who has good years of experience there, by speaking and by talking and writing, can tell you, are you such a bad shape that you need services, or it just needs little bit of polishing work. I have not found it that helpful. For example, see, our college is a multi departmental college. I was not. It was not beneficial for me to send it to an MA English person. No, it was not helpful. So they were going into too technical writing, means they wanted to show the
Hmm.
English in them. No, 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 actually they are looking for very simple English. The problem is we don't know to write simple,
Yeah.
very simple English they were looking for.
I
Yeah.
think
It's just a medium of communication, right? Of thought.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so much like writing a novel type, right? And your research papers are like your short stories that you publish once in a while.
Correct, correct, very
And
true, very true.
I mean, like the plot is basically the major thing, but the way you communicate it matters so much, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, in a novel, you have the language is seen for, like, basically you read a lot for language also, but then simple language is something that everyone prefers and it's universal, right? So
correct. But
yeah, I
then
wanted
finally,
to.
no, just concluding. So finally, what
Mhm.
happens once the desk rejection, suppose the desk rejection pass through, like you're not getting desk rejected, then it goes to reviewers. So the editor will select randomly, anonymously two people in your area who can go through your paper, and generally it is double masked. That is, I will not know who is reviewing my paper, and the reviewers will not know me or my institution, so that there's no bias. So he'll go through my paper, then he'll give a strong feedback or a strong appreciation, whatever it is. Then that will be communicated to the editor. Editor will take a final call whether you should be given a second chance or he will reject. So now the
Hmm.
biggest problem in PhD is this waiting time is haunting. Waiting time. It it can go from 5 months even to 4 years. You can wait for 4 years for one paper to get complete this process. Because why I want to stress is that this entire reviewing process is charity, is not paid. So peer review is charity. So only the editor gets paid from the journal for being the administrative head. But a reviewer is doing only charity. So because I have published papers, I get papers to review. I need to review in some time and then give it back to them. So this runs only on goodwill, charity, and also there's a lot of altruism in this. That I
But
still,
don't
tell
you
me.
think there are like professional reviewers who charge you by the hour or something like that? That way you can make a business also. Or do you think like that will hamper the goodwill part of it?
Exactly. So top journals will not have paid reviewers at all. What will happen is, for example, so now there are some journals where they will give you some entitlement. It won't be a salary. See, these are already top professors. They're earning in good amount. They're earning from their colleges and other funding. So what they do, they give you some entitlement so that you have some more. You give more commitment to that. That's all. But you are fundamentally a researcher, so it's I can't get into a profession of reviewing. I can do a copy editing service, I can do language editing service, but a
Mhm.
technical subject matter expert review cannot happen on an independent level. So what will happen is, see, the reviewer will also have some friend circle, right? So for example, if you both are working in the area of strategy and I am an editor, I will get a paper. I will send it to both of you. I'll tell, just take 45 days and finish the review and come. So 45 days, you're not jobless, right? You have already
correct.
your works. You are also writing paper. You are also writing multiple papers, doing your research, doing teaching, and then in between, I'm asking, just can you just review this paper? What you will do? You want to actually satisfy. You want to be the good Samaritan. Help me to help my journal and also help these people who are submitting this paper. So you will go through very critically. Sometimes you will tell, I need 3 more months or I'll need 4 more months. But for me, it is my choice now. Suppose if you both are very good and I don't want to lose the bond which I have with you, I'll keep giving you extra time. But on the contrary, if you both are freshers or you both are young researchers, I am like, okay, these are not responding in time. So I'll send you thank you mail telling that it's okay, we'll find some other reviewers. It's like that. But end of the day, when you do it in time, and remember that I as an editor, I'm also evaluating your reviews, means how good reviews you're giving. So tomorrow more and more papers will come to you. Okay. Then the final benefit is tomorrow when I leave, I can recommend you as an editor for this.
Uh,
So there you
Got
get
it.
benefited. So you want to be in the goodwill of of a very good reviewer or an editor, because tomorrow you will also you want to become an editor of a big journal. So what happens is there is a lot of unsaid things. Suppose we three are editors in three journals, so we know each other. So what we'll try to do, and we are editors in good journals because we done good work. This post doesn't come without merit, that's for sure. It doesn't come through money, it comes only by merit. But what will happen is that tomorrow when I write a paper to your journal, we know each other, right? So there's a good network happening here. So suppose my student is writing a paper, he's sending it to you, you know that, oh, this is Gadi's student, okay, fine. When I send a paper to their journal, I'll need their benefit. So it gets done, right? So
um,
you want to be in that league, you want to be in that who's who of the field. That can happen through editing. For tomorrow, if you're an editor of a big journal, they'll call you for keynote address, they'll call you for talks, all that. So being an editor of a specialized journal is itself, it's like reaching the summit of academic journey.
I think from this, from whatever we've heard till now, right? Functionally, a researcher has, say, one thing which he's doing research, then reviewing papers, right? Writing papers, then also going to conferences, right? Functionally, on a very mental level, they're also motivating themselves. Sometimes highs, sometimes lows. You're getting rejected, etc. On a mental level, right? And then there's also this mindset that you have kind of conditioned yourself to, which is seeking knowledge, etc. This question is, I think, some more personal to you, which is, you talked about going to the industry and then learning from the industry, right? This mindset which you had not had in, say, college, etc., I mean, this rigor, right, not the mindset, you developed it over a period of 4 years. Will it be easy? I'm not sure if you have thought of it also, but I'm just, if you have not thought of it, it's a good way. I think I brought this up, which is, will you be able to let go all of this and then start off in a new job? And job is not going to be more rigor, right? And it's going to be like, okay, fine, some deliverable at the end of the day. There is going to be some review, some bonus, etc. All this excitement that you've built up, will you kind of leave it and then say, all just for the whole industry experience, will you leave it and go? Right? Have you thought of this first of all, right? And if so, why would you do that, right? And yeah,
Or is there a way of like holding on to that and
yeah,
continuing in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
industry?
I think Abhinav answered mine. So I will definitely hold on, and I have a methodology for that. So I will not leave research because tomorrow academia also will not prefer me if I
yeah.
tell 25 years back I had a A paper. Doesn't make sense. So what? You had a paper then. What are you now? So I will not lose the research flavor of it. I have seen amazing people in my life who have finished PhD, went to corporate, continued research part time. Just I can tell you, just like how you are taking time to do and catch up with your hobbies and passions like this podcast, people are continuing part time research. They so it's for example now at this point of time I have lot of questions in my head already. I know some ideas to do. I know if given an opportunity next that I will collect this data, I'll find this methodology, I'll find this result. I have also thought about where I'll publish, where I'll send, and all that. I have that. So I have a folder in my system called work in progress. So those are my working progress files. Whenever I'll get time, I will do that. That is one. Second is research skill in academia is lot sought after. There are professors who want research students to work with them on some problem and give them quick solutions and results. For example, few days back I was contacted by a professor. Long back we connected and I was in touch with him. Few days back he just connected to me and said, "Hey, actually my paper came for review and they're asking me to run some 6,000 regressions, right? So 6,000 multi-model regressions. So can you just do it? It would take a lot of time for me, and my student right now is not in a position to handle it, right? So can you do it?" So now the 6,000 regressions in Excel might take an year, but it may take few seconds in Python or R, right? So that's the power of computational. So I said that, cool, sir, I'll do it. You send the data. So now here is what I had the opportunity to understand his work. I saw the methodology, I ran the regression, and I gave him the results. So now he will not offer me authorship for sure because I just did some small dot of the work. But he said that, see, I have some funding for this project, and we have some charge sheet for research assistants who'll do for 1 hour so much, so we will pay you for these many hours, like that. So there is also monetary benefit, and whether you need that also, correct? It cannot be like everything be seva, right? Or it can be everything can't be charity. But here is what. But I am basically from a charitable institution, but I have also learned talking to outside people how to bill them, how to charge them. I think nothing comes for free. Either you give me authorship, or is it monetary charges. For example, I was involved with a Berlin. Now currently I'm involved in a Berlin project where they wanted a person who has finished PhD to be part of their project. So now that project doesn't need 8 hours in a day like my job. I can say that it will require 4 hours in a week. That's all, or 5 years in a week, because I have that skill set to do it faster. So now I have told them that even I get my job, I'll not leave this project. It's a very interesting project. They are interviewing more than 1,000 top level CXOs and CEOs in the country. So there's a huge amount of data. There's a lot of analysis being happening. It's a very exciting project. So now it's like I am just visualizing, though I'm not in the position, that tomorrow, if I'm getting in a routine job, which is from Monday to Friday, though it might be quite boring and monotonous, but I'll be very excited on the Saturday, Sunday when I'll be working on these research projects, like how it happens to you all when it comes to podcast or some video editing. So I don't want to lose that at all. So independent, I will sell myself as an independent researcher. So actually, when these people are contacting me, they're asking me to bill as an independent freelancer researcher, just like an independent freelancer videographer. They want research people who can do analysis to their data or do lot of number crunching and give them final result. They will take care of the sophisticated analysis and writing a paper and all that stuff. I'm also in plans to collaborate with our own university once I leave, also with students. For example, I have during my PhD journey also, I combined my PhD with MBA projects, because I understood that as MBA students, there are some people who are very excited to do some good work. Tap that, capture that excitement they have, use it that for your purpose. Make some good problem, give some good data, and translate it. So that also works. So as I am right now looking for job opportunities, it's very clear that I am not looking for myself to excel in corporate life. I will do it my best. I'll give my best because that is what I've been learning in my research journey. But the independent research, what I'll do will not stop. That's what I look for. So it will be better. So my job is also into finance, unless if I go into totally unrelated stuff.
Yeah.
So what will happen is there'll be decay, right? My finance decay will be start happening slowly. I'll be getting into more of that. So that's why I'm looking for more finance roles or more research oriented roles rather than just consulting roles. So that would be my plan of action. But
I
yeah,
think that's basically similar to how I am right now, right? I work in an advertising agency as a video specialist, and on the weekends I do podcast and
correct,
shoot some
correct.
stuff. So they complement each other. They're not
Yes,
they are essentially the same, like the crux of them is same, like content creation, but uh they are, they complement each other, like you said.
correct, correct. I am also looking for like that experience only, so that I don't forget my research.
But are there enough opportunities like that?
It's
Like
difficult.
tomorrow, say if you
It's
want to like
difficult. It's
go into
difficult.
your field of research, so
Hmm.
does India provide such kind of opportunities?
Yeah, yeah. So what I have understood is, I am, though my area might be very specific to behavioral finance, on that I have measured one or two parameters of an investor decision making. I may not get a job on that, right? As I told you
Of
again, research
course.
is very intangible. That may be a cost center. It may not be a profit center, right? But there are some overall domains. For example, I have done more research on equity markets. So I want to stay too close to market data. I don't want to, uh, as of now, maybe I'm not in a desperate situation for job right now. I may not want to analyze some hospital data or some consumer behavior data, right? That will not be my forte. I want to do finance data. I want to do economics data research on that. And then I'm also looking for opportunities where I get a bigger picture. So instead of going to a very big company and doing a small role, go to a small company and do a big role where you get a lot of functional labs. I'm also looking for fintech roles because that's a future, because I have myself integrated a lot of technology in my research. I
Hmm.
have picked up, so necessity is a mother of invention, right? So I have picked up programming and analytics for my research because I was using big data. And now lots of fintechs are developing their apps and ecosystems such a way that they're collecting data. They're not only providing service, they're actually collecting huge amount of data. So if we get an opportunity to work on this role, those real life data, that will be a very exciting opportunity. But yes, I can say, I won't say it's difficult because I've not done that search. I'm not in a state of 4 to 5 months of not getting a job and then say that yeah, it's very difficult. No, I'm not in that state right now. So I'm just a week old in looking for jobs. But yeah, I'm also sure that I need to sell my skill sets, because the market works little different. You don't become a domain expert just by doing research.
Yeah.
Because I might have a lot of theoretical knowledge but may not be a practical knowledge to call myself a domain expert in financial markets. Because financial markets, it's very difficult to call anyone a domain expert. People who make money doesn't mean they're domain expert, right? Or people who don't make money doesn't mean that they're not domain expert. Very difficult. Markets are very, very difficult and fluid in that way, unlike pure science. Very, because markets are dealing with human behavior, animal spirits. It is. If you follow stock market and all that, Adam
Yeah.
Smith took a long time, but oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. That is why the research is unending. Like there's no end to it because you're dealing with human mind and human behavior. So yeah, but I'm sure it will be challenging, but the same challenges I faced in even in PhD. At least I can tell you, I'm so excited. I can tell you, I'm so excited to get into an ecosystem where people are working. To be frank, I wanting that because I've worked alone for years. It's a soul journey. It can be so depressing and so lonely. Like that loneliness will hit very hard. You don't know whom. There are I can add some points like, I have done some good exercise of joining Twitter forums and some clubs, research clubs, Stack Overflow exchange clubs, where you can keep talking and discussing, but end of the day you're alone. There is no team lead, there is no junior, there is no boss. See, my supervisor can do only till one extent, right? How much he can get on my shoes and pull me up. It's such a lone journey. Actually, I'm okay to even work, which will not give me that much excitement of PhD, but I'm okay to work with a team, where there are some people around, have some discussion, then have some blame game going on or whatever. But that I'm looking forward for it. I'm looking forward for the corporate because it has been a very, very solo journey. I can say that I'm little bored of it. That's why I'm not continuing. I don't want to continue into postdoc or something like that.
Yeah, I think you thrive also with
in
people,
a
right?
group. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in a group.
Yeah, yeah. That's why even in research, I have spent so much time in talking to people about their max research and physics research and chemistry research. You get a lot of ideas. You think, oh, that's how people think. That's how people struggle in different fields. So that you have a respect and empathy to every field. So I didn't
Yeah,
want it to be like science mein kuch nahi hai, management is difficult. No, no, no. Every field is equally challenging and very demanding. So in that way, talking to people was very helpful. But as you rightly pointed out, Abhinav, like uh, I like to work in teams. I'm not like a person just allow me to work in a corner, I'll work. I didn't enjoy that. But yes, thank God in our campus, we all the research scholars sit together. So we don't have this silent or closed cubicles. We all work together. We don't have unrequired privacy. I would say like that is not required. That privacy is not required. You are in a group. You discuss. You talk. You are cribbing with the data, or you're cribbing with your reviewer who's talking nonsense, but you have some people around you. It's very
yeah, we're
important.
all in this shit together.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
By the way, dude, see, as researchers, okay, like you have obviously like superior academic qualifications,
Mm.
okay, and you have spent like the minimum time that people spend in research in India, at
Yeah,
least like is at least 3 to 4 years,
yeah, yeah,
and it can go on to even 8 9 years, and like we've seen people, right?
yeah.
So, uh, like, does that have that equal gratification when it comes to like remuneration, jobs like you should be getting paid also that well, right? Because you're
No,
like subject matter expert and
no,
stuff
no,
like that.
no. The business doesn't work like that. I think corporation is very clear. So the very clear demarcation is cost center and revenue center, right? So you bring
Hmm.
revenue, then you're going to
Yeah.
get money, right? So I am also not being over realistic or over ambitious that my classmate who finished MBA 5 years back now is earning X, so I need to get X. No, that doesn't work like that. So end of the day, you need to dirty your legs. You need to put your hands. You need to dip your feet in the water. So, but there are some tricks in that. For example, when I spoke to a lot of career counselors and people who advised me how to look my career, they said that my 5 years of research may not be 5 years of work X, but it's definitely can be considered as 2 to 3 years of work X because I have worked on real life problems. Unlike an MBA project, which is shallow or which is very limited or which is not rigorous, you can still be considered having some work X. You may not be a fresher like an MBA grad. So, but there are also some tricks in that. So uh, the corporate also is having two camps. One camp who doesn't believe what is PhD or who doesn't know what's PhD. There is one camp who have lot of value for PhD. So especially where the founders or CEOs are themselves PhD, right?
Hmm.
Or the promoters or the senior management are themselves PhD. I remember I spoke to a person who was working in PwC in a very senior position. He did his PhD post 40. So he himself is so excited about PhD and he has gone through the difficult journey of PhD. He has respect for all the PhDs, right? So he knows what a PhD will bring on the table. He told me, which I also didn't know. So he was telling me that I have seen PhD people having the grit not to leave a problem. So I have seen people showing a lot of resilience to challenges. So these are the skill sets I'll be bringing on the table. Now it depends on where I go and put this paper, right? So I may be selling myself to a wrong person who doesn't even know what's a PhD. He thinks it's all humbug, man. Who cares? I want my revenue center end of the day. So I think if you ask me, the long term, because the long term goal is not corporate, or I'm not looking for a 7 digit or 8 digit annual package, and that's not my long term goal. I want to dirty my hands in the corporate so that tomorrow I don't lose this experience. Because the more I delay, I'm going to get more outdated with corporate. So I wanted to finish PhD in the momentum I finished my masters. So coming to this point, the timing of PhD also matters a lot, especially in India,
Hmm.
because I have seen people who worked in investment banking for 10 years, got bucked of doing the same thing, especially a lot of stress with markets, wanted to go to academia, came for a PhD. That's like richest to rag stories, bro. Seriously, like you work in an investment bank like Goldman and all, and then where you're earning seven-digit salary, and suddenly you come for 40,000 per month stipend mode. It's going to be crazy. You need to have a lot of savings, and your standard of living will cut down so much. Especially again, the gratification issues problem will come for them because they have been in a very run on the treadmill scenario, and then suddenly your research is slow, it's thought oriented, it's reading, it's philosophy. The pace comes down a lot. Can be very challenging to do PhD post 35, 40. But on the contrary, it might be a little easier. You finish your masters, the same ball is rolling in that momentum, there's no inertia. You finish your PhD. I wanted that. So I was not sure that like it was not for me, like it not for me, it was not a big no. It's not like that corporate. I was okay for it. But long term goal will definitely be teaching. Like I want to see myself, like if they ask what do you visualize yourself, so I'm visualizing myself like the old the virus type professor who's going in cycle and with some like nest behind his carriage and all, like that, and a lot of students asking doubts and all. So that is what is my imagination of myself. So I don't want to be in the corporate or top CXO level with some coat suit and all, or like client facing interaction. I want to do my research. I want to get the actual practical. So, for example, I'll tell you simple things like talking to my friends is itself is giving me idea about corporate.
Yeah, like
Right?
us.
Yeah, definitely. So when I talk to a person about what's happening in an industry or what happens in consulting industry, I'm getting some flair idea about it. And once I go neck deep into that, I'll get very good idea. Tomorrow, that is what the students will look for. I looked for that when I was my master student from my teachers. Right? I wished that my teachers knew what's happening outside. I didn't want them to get the outside world to me. Then there's no excitement. I am still a big believer that there should be dissonance between academia and corporate. They both can't be same. Then if they both are same, then it both will not start with A and C, right? Both will be same. No, I that dissonance will be there, but uh, informed decisions can happen from the students when they graduate. So they think finance, like the finance term is very dicey. It's very it has a wheel and you have to lift and see what is the real finance there. It's like that. So people think finance means all this call option, put option, everything is that only, or some straddles and all. But tomorrow end you'll be ending up doing some automation process of some payments and all. But that's
Yeah,
also finance. But we are never given focus on operations of finance. We are given only focus on stock market. You think finance is stock market. So
yeah,
these are small things. But that informed decision a student can take if the teacher himself knows that, a teacher
yeah,
himself. And I have seen good B schools are preferring PhDs or work X based PhDs, so they are preferring that. So I did that research. I spoke to people, and also like see, end of the day, we have to talk in monetary terms, right? It can't be only in self actualization terms. So
yeah.
this corporate experience will definitely build a good capital also for me, and good financial stability, which I lost in the 3 4 years, right? Which I didn't have, like unlike my classmates.
You'll
So
go
that,
through.
Maslow's hierarchy
yeah,
yourself.
correct. So I have to finish my basic needs about financial stability, build some good savings and capital, and then the academia will not be that painful. Because academia, see, one thing I have to tell, that academia is not a rich game.
Yeah,
You have the money is not the focus. It pays less, and you don't expect 40 50% hike, or what do you call that, jump, like
bonus. Yeah, hike only.
No, when you go to the next job, increment, whatever.
Increment.
So that and all you can't expect. It's all set. The pay scales are set in most of the B schools or
I
academy.
think also
It'll help you bridge the gap between, you'll understand both worlds, right? Apart from you telling your students also, as a person, I don't know this side of the world, but you have the ability to see both sides of the world, which is a very rare thing, right? And it is it is a crime if you have something in your hand and you don't take it, right? So I think that's one. And the second thing is, when you talked about the Stanford person actually being part of the research, right, in the QR code thing, right, and that being it converted into a product, and then how it is monetized, what is it? So I think those are the gaps that you can bridge, saying, hey, look, I built this, now I don't know what is it being used for, and I don't know how is it being used for, right? I think that you can appreciate, right? Saying, okay, look, this is what I've built, this is what it's being, how is this being used, right? And what strategies, etc., whatever is the thing. I think that's where both of these worlds, it's a very rare thing. I think the other way is very difficult, which is we coming to research, right? I think you going here it'll be beneficial for you and the students and everyone that's involved. Yeah, but amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had an amazing conversation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think we covered most of the important things of PhD.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, when I started off, I thought it would be a little surface level, but uh, it went pretty deep, and I didn't know so many of the things that happen. And especially, you told about the research papers and about the ground realities of Indian research and things like that. I think it's pretty amazing, and I'm pretty sure that if some PhD aspirants who are watching this show right now, they'll find it definitely very very useful, and
Mm.
uh, every section of it actually. So yeah, I think this has been like one of the most fun episodes that we have recorded, and also one of the like longest ones, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't
Because
know. Yeah, it's like we lost time.
I
yeah,
think
This
because
can go on forever. Actually, this episode you can keep talking, especially with our guest here.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So Gadi is a guy who likes to like talk, and
Talk.
if you're on a road trip with Gadi, you know that you're sorted. Like there's no moment where it's like fully silent and all that, unless he's sleeping in the car. Otherwise, he's the guy who's like, you
I
know,
I've been on.
One recently while coming back, I think this was the kind of the similar topic that we were speaking on. We were thinking about research, science, and etc. Like,
Yeah, it's I think you don't I don't feel this comfortable to talking to others like when it comes to our school friends, no? Like it,
Yeah.
we have lot of unsaid things. We just continue, and it's like it's not that we connect on a daily basis also. So we may
yeah,
connect after 1 year, but we'll just continue the thread where we left last time. So that's the beauty we have with childhood buddies, no? Amazing it
that's
is.
true.
Yeah. I
Nice.
think I was.
learned a lot in this episode. There's some person in the previous episode that we did with Jeff, and then the other one of my mutual friend actually heard it, and she was saying, "Hey, look, we were friends all this while, but we never knew this deep about someone, right?" And I think I have a similar thought process too, right? At the end of this episode, saying, "Hey, look, I've known this person for so long, right? But this is something we don't discuss often. Like we'll just talk some random level trash, right? Which is some stupid trash talk, right? But I think coming off this episode, my whole respect for Gadi and Aditya is gone to a whole new level, because there's so much that we don't see, yeah, on a very day to day basis. Yeah, but I yeah, it's a whole new level of respect. It's a whole new level of the admiration in terms of what we can pick up and then put it right. And that's where the podcast purpose also is, right? To put out something where each one can actually take some, maybe just some, if not the whole thing, just take some aspect and then put it into their lives and improve. I think as long we're checking that box, which we have definitely checked it with a marker today, right? So Yeah, permanent
Yeah,
marker
that's
right there.
that's exactly the point, right? Like when we are talking in general, we are catching up after a long time.
Correct.
We don't discuss something in like
In a
in
structure.
in a very structured format. Like
Correct, correct.
we like life is like that, right? We
True.
discuss topics in different ways, and like
Yeah.
finally we collect, and that collection is a person. That's how we see it. But this platform gives us that opportunity to
Yeah. Yeah.
talk in depth and have that conversation.
And even
So
helps the speaker. No, I have whenever I got opportunity to speak, I take time to reflect. So many thoughts are just hanging here and there. But when you
hmm,
want to communicate something, you crystallize it. You make it a structure. You give thought to that. Oh, this is what is really happening, right? So you actually come out of you and actually look what's happening to you, and then able to communicate. Very important to have sessions like this, and especially uh, not just session, but we are also getting into the process of documenting, right, which
yeah,
we lacked it. Documentation has become a very big thing right now. Like journals and like writing down your process. So now I'm having this challenge when I'm working with abroad professors. They're telling document your work, because tomorrow we need to bill you, like you need to bill us. Correct. So we need to know
Yeah.
what you're doing, but we were like, no one taught us, we just keep working
yeah.
working, huh? Very important documenting, and we have gone into this mode of podcast and documenting this and putting it in YouTube for posterity, na? So
Yeah.
it's a
For
beautiful thing.
eternity.
Paternity, yeah.
Yeah, and the good news is that by the time I think this podcast will come out, Aditya ji would have published his research also, if I'm not wrong.
No,
Would you?
yeah, so yeah, you're right. When my research is published, but my defense is not completed. Yeah, so yeah,
Oh,
my
such a
Defense person you are, no? Everywhere in defense only you are doing.
defense is a final examination which happens with the external, but my research is published. So it's like a formal degree will be at hand. Yeah,
you're also from a different.
Defense background. So remember, yeah.
totally. I'm totally away from it.
This is a different defense that you'll be doing.
Even when we're playing football, also, right? He never played like midfield or attacking types. Always defense.
Yeah.
All right, viewers and
Okay.
listeners,
All
I
right.
think we had a lot of fun discussing. We had a lot of fun speaking with Aditya today, and I hope you had too. Leave your comments in the comment section about what did you think about this episode, and any key takeaways or anything that you would like to add. And don't
And
forget to like, share, and subscribe.
also we'll be linking.
Linking his social media handles somewhere below. So anyone who's been so inspired, please reach out to him. Somewhere here, somewhere down it'll be. Take out this.
LinkedIn especially, because he's going to take the corporate by storm.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for calling me and giving this opportunity. It was great. I don't want to sound cliched, but it helped me a lot
Yeah.
to actually. I think it was a crescendo of my PhD journey. Like I'm finishing it. I just went through the journey with you all.
This is
I'm
like the
done. My chapter is closed.
It's like that Salt Bay, the end, that last salt, we just ended it like that.
That's it. And now I am ready to look for the new chapter of my life.